waffle. Thank you, thank you. Welcome in, sir. Okay, folks, so welcome into Gordos Games here. What we're going to be going through today is Expedition 33 80% in story mode. Right, the main difference between story mode and expert and expeditioner is you do get an increased 40% parry window when playing through it. So there is more opportunities to be able to hit those parrying places, and it's generally made to be more accessible for those who are just looking to play through the story. Hence the name. So let's get into it. I'll be talking through pieces as we go along to some extent. Those in chat, feel free to ask as we go along. No, if you get hit, you get hit. It's one of those. It just doesn't mean anything because it's like, well, I'm not dead. Unless you're like next to the. To be fair, the route that you're taking actually is quite risky. I should add that fact.
All right, let's go.
Are
you ready?
So this route itself is going to be based off using a team. The team you're going to be using for the majority of it is going to be CL, Mael, and Verso. We don't use Lune in the story one. There is a run. Yes, your route is risky. I'll explain why it's risky when we get to a certain point. I'll go through the move list when we get to CL, more or less. Through the prologue, it's all pretty much straightforward here. Just do everything as per.
She looks so much younger than you.
Thanks.
She's popular. I'm sure she already has a necklace full of flowers.
I mean, you could, and this is the thing. For anybody, obviously, for anybody who doesn't know, if you do watch this video, there is a race happening on January 17th between some of the end presenters, Midnight Sancho, Wicked 1997, and Totodile. I can't remember the rest of the name. Totodile Nor, I think it is. You should definitely go and check them out. The details will be dropped in the bottom of the description of this video. So I got lazy there already. Like that was. Let me see if this works now.
It's weak.
No, close. Do we have a time set for that? For
I saw her.
Yeah.
For what, Wicked?
Well, the plaza is lively. Why people like to.
But yeah, so what I was just saying, in terms of those links, they'll be in the description of this video. I don't think we have a time set as yet. I think we was asking about Totodile.
You and Sophie broke up so long ago.
Because I see normally I'm free from like 7:30 onwards my time.
Why'd you wait until today?
But obviously it's more applicable to you overseas.
A bit late.
When's works for you. But yeah, in terms of the prologue here, there's not much different you'll do. This will be pretty much the same no matter what you're doing. We're not taking additional fights. We don't go and find the mime. We don't do anything like that. We don't grab anything here. You just get through the prologue as quick as possible.
I'm fine.
I mean, that works. I think that's like 10 o'clock my side, so that should be fine.
We've had a whole lot to prepare. We're all fine.
Yeah.
Mostly.
I'm not fine.
You will be.
Sancho, whose time zone you are?
Oh, Luna's playing. You two would make a cute couple. Sometimes I feel sorry for her.
Who? The paintress?
Look at her.
She's ahead by I want to say, okay.
Maybe she's a prisoner.
There's little shortcuts like that you can take whilst going through the prologue, but
Always loved the harbor.
for the most part, just get through this as quick as possible. In this next part, there's just one thing not to do. Don't accept a second duel from Mael. In terms of the speedrun, there's just no point. It gives you no added benefit or anything like that.
Let's at least check on Mael and my apprentices.
Gustav, we got something for you.
What are we all fighting in the chat? Oh, it's one of the houses from FF7.
But you'll feel they'll definitely. Oh,
That you
I shall fake.
and never.
no.
I promise. Promise.
Andrea,
I'll use everything.
I should check on my own.
You just decline it, and then you don't do it. Sancho's trying to sabotage you already. He's like, yeah, you have to do all that.
Yeah.
You also have to. I'm guessing Sancho's going to say you also have to beat Golgra
I know.
as well.
If anyone should.
So do
No, I don't.
Emma thinks.
Lumi has. Besides,
Right.
shush.
Doubly lucky.
All right,
Old man.
you'll prick this time.
You just press no.
Emma's.
Our beloved.
Don't get too.
My darling sister has arrived. She'll kill me if I don't say goodbye.
Sancho is going to be sabotaging today's saboteur.
You should put that in your.
There are so.
Em, you're doing.
We're never.
You're so.
Just take.
Me?
We're her god. She really. You mean the one?
Just suggestion.
I do. Anyway.
Next thing Sancho's going to say is, when you go to the arena, don't do it with my L because you don't need a weapon. It's overrated. It is. Now, in your route here, so we're going to Spring Meadow now. So this is our boss in this area is going to be a Vec. Now, there is two ways of doing this. For the route that you've got, it will say to do it without Lance Run. You can do it with, to just make it more guaranteed to get through with a shield skip. That is completely up to you. Sancho, look, I'll give you all the best gifts. Don't be like that. Hey, Wicked. Out of curiosity, do you have Resident Evil 2 Remake? I'm voting on Toto. I'll be honest. The one out of nowhere. Wicked's been doing the research here. Sancho is just doing Sancho, and Toto is just going to come out of nowhere. It's going to be the black sheep. Just gonna kind of be thriving without anybody knowing what he's doing. So a couple of things you can add into the run here, which weren't in the ones when I watched it. So is the little hops up here. Just skips going up the ladders. The little climbing animations. Sancho, what? How did you know I was going to be asking that? I was like, yeah, which console I got? Oh, never be it because I suck. All right. I mean, doesn't matter what console, mate. How about we look at an RE2 race? Yep, Sancho can spread some thingy here. All right, no Claire. We'll teach you Leon's. Claire can suck it. Yes, Sancho, I'll race you at Leon. How's that? We did Claire. I'll race you at Leon. It's only fair now. Why are you being a pussy? We did Claire and you won that race fair and square, Sancho. I got cooked up beyond belief. So here's where you can take Lance from. I'll get it for the purpose of this, but this isn't necessary for this one. In the notes, it will have the details as to how it's scripted for the Lance Run fight. But in terms of it, this just makes it a little bit more consistent. I mean, you wouldn't say no, Sancho. The first pit table we're going to pick up, which is used throughout quite a lot of the run, is going to be Critical Burn here. which does give us 25% increased critical chance of burn enemies. This guy hops down. We don't care about him because we just fought the other guy. You can fight that one for the lance room if you really want to. There's a couple of chances to get the lance room. We don't need an energy tint here like we did on the expert one at this point, so we're just going to carry on down.
Yeah. The continent.
Sweet. Okay.
The indigo trees over
So, alright, okay, I'm down for that. Are there any serious skips? There are, but this is glitchless basically. The only ones I'm teaching you are glitchless. You can do any percent and it's quite substantially different because there are a few skips in this game. There were bugs at one point. Oh, he means he's Resi, okay. I thought he was talking about this. It's alright, I've got a de-rust normal thingy for, to be honest, Sancho, because I haven't done a normal run in ages. I've done new game plus ones, so I still remember the route and that, but that's about it. In terms of like doing it from a standard perspective, it's like, yeah.
Be careful.
Alright, so I guess, should we in terms of like all these races, Sancho, do we want these on the newsletter or do we actually want like a bulletin for upcoming races? Or how do we want to do that? Because at the moment we seem to plan on a lot.
Let us thank them for that.
Also, there's a rule, folks. If you ran the game more than 25 times, you're not allowed in. Go hardcore sweats. Absolutely. And Excel can commentate the res too. Bulletin form be more, guys. That's fair. That's fair. Okay. So let's go back and I'll show you one other thing here. So we pick up the energy here. Now we used to, I want to stop here for a second and just say, so dead energy has changed since the latest patch. So if you play this on PC, you can down patch to before they changed it. But effectively, it used to give you like a 10% damage buff attached to it for being equipped. It doesn't do that anymore, but we still pick it up because it does allow us to get more AP back once we take out other enemies, which helps us to kind of facilitate keeping our AP up in places. It's not as massively needed, but so there might be some variations in the run that's been provided. But there's also this little jump here. We do this, and then we up here, and then you can go up here if we can get up. And pick up dead energy. We do that just try and let skip around a little bit, and we just hop down, grab some Luminar, and off we pop. How are we doing, Pikachu? Welcome in, welcome in. Now, we haven't taken as many fights here compared to thingy, so our actual might is going to be at 6 instead of the 9 that we got previously. And instead of having both powerful and mark and shot, we only take one. I personally take mark and shot. Like I said, you can adapt this a little bit as you go along that. This is just optimized by the world record holder for this one. Then we'll go ahead and equip all our stuff here. And then for this one, we're going on the principle that everything should just be equipped to good stuff. We want him to have the most speed going. The notes that given have everything attached to it in terms of how the fight should look and some variations for it. So let's just go through it. And what we're aiming to do here is we're going to try and get a shield skip. Now I'm going to try and demonstrate it for the purpose of the video. 100% guarantee we're not going to hit it, but you know, we're going to try. So just for talking sake here, if it's a single target attack and shot weak point, blah 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 blah, dodge and counter next turn. So it gives you some discrepancies as to what you should do at this point. So it says you should dodge and counter next turn. In all honesty, just try and manage the fight as much as you can in terms of his health, and you'll get an idea of it overall. So we'll shoot shield, shoot weak spot, and then we'll go mark and shot. We then want to go immolate with this. Because we've got mark and shot on there, it's going to put a 5 stack of fire on there, which is going to do a decent amount of damage. We need him to look to attack Gus to get him to like 10 in his little charge and that. If he doesn't, it becomes a little bit of an annoyance. Some ways to do that is by like doing some Lumiere assaults and stuff like that, but we're just going to try and hopefully aim to get what we need out of it, and hopefully we get the AP and the charges that we need to be able to try and hit that big crit. Okay, so we've got a spell here, which is not too bad for us. We'll take that. That gives us 2. We are going to over damage, I think. Yeah, we've over damaged here. We should have shot earlier. Because we've got Lance from, we have effectively put too much on it. So we're just going to do this. I'm actually just going to take the hit here because he's already over threshold. It's fine. Because that'll do a chunk of it anyway. He'll get a lot of shield here. That's fine. We have enough AP to burn that down and then doing mark and shot on some other pieces. So it can be easily fixed. Fire stack will go off. He'll attack Gustav here, and this should be it, depending on how much damage we do. That's fine. And as you can see, a substantial difference from when you see it in the aspect of expert to this one as well.
Petrus must fall.
Okay, so we're moving on to Goblu section after this. Yeah, and that's just it. A Vex fight doesn't really change because you don't really have any tools to change the fight up, really. You're using critical burn, you're using dead energy, mark and shot are powerful. That fight should be pretty much similar all around. The only thing you're looking to do is trying to get it to that threshold, whereas you can do that one large bit of damage, use an overcharge to skip him getting all his shields up. That's the aim. That's your perfect fight. If you can get that up, you save yourself a lot of time instead of faffing around. Up to that point now, we'd already over damaged, so it was more of a case of let's just get it done. But there's a certain threshold on his health bar. If he goes over that, that's when he'll initiate the overall shield. Yeah, it's not the easiest to do it. Because what you need to have set up is you need to have mark and shot on it. You need to have a fire stack on there so critical burn can give you a chance to hit a crit. Well, more likely to hit a crit. You know, 1 in 4 chance instead of substantially less, basically. Now this one we take even less here.
Interesting. Wait. Evron. Looks like a different species.
Doesn't matter.
Those mines. Be careful.
The merchant you don't even need in this run. Expert, yes, because expose and attack is good, but this run we don't use it. It's only in the higher difficulties because we have to take more fights to get ourselves
We don't know what
generally to a
find.
point where we've got a bit more XP to make our stats more relevant. So we can upgrade our stuff here. We didn't used to be able to do it here so much because... Hang on. There you go, try again, mate. Try again.
How did you find me?
There was a message at the indigo tree.
Do you know who left it?
A message?
Alright, so we want 3 agility here. Actually, no. Sorry, take this back. I'm going to change this up for you all. We actually don't need to do this here.
Maybe. No.
We do it just before Goblu.
Alright.
It should work on the principle that it is mark and shot into offensive switch into per se.
Take him down.
A storm is coming.
Skip any turns that we don't need for damage wise.
Take him down.
And done. Technically we didn't need the first marking shot. That's just been habit from either run I've been doing, so. But that is curator. The reason the menu changed there a little bit where we didn't need to do it beforehand is just because of the issue with some of the menus. It used to be the case if you couldn't interact with some of the flags whilst conversations were going on. They have now fixed that since, so it doesn't do that, so you can actually just just go straight to them,
So you didn't.
which is better.
Guess
We don't take Denirum here. There's a weapon here
There's a path through the boat.
for solo Looney that you can look to take, which is called the Denirum. We don't take that in this run. So we just continue onwards, and we don't pick up the Brularum or Mayo either, because it's not required.
Forging something. So they have intelligence.
Again, the damage difference in this one compared to others is substantial enough. We could do it here, but we're not going to. We'll do it further around. We'll do it just before we get to Goblu. The reason we try and take as minimal menus as possible is because that's a lot of the time waste goes into it, just by removing things around time and time again. If you can minimize that to say like 1 menu or 2 menus per area, it substantially takes some time off overall across the entire run.
Merde. This one is gigantic.
Avoid those at all costs.
So I used to take the one back there. Actually, I still do take this one, but it's still the closest one. So this is the one I tend to go to. Reason being, it's less out. You actually no. Tell a lie. Tell a lie. One before is the quickest one to go with. If you want to go based on not going out of your way. We'll go powerful. You don't need to learn anything else yet. You don't learn anything else yet. Go through its attributes here. 1, 2, 3, and then we'll go 12. So it's gonna be 3 agility, 12 might. This will try and help sort out turn order as well. We want to go Mael 15 might. Then we're gonna go 6 agility, 9 might here. That is all that stuff. We have got lighter from going through that. When you're fighting a Vec as well, do not kill the minions. Them being alive actually gives you more XP. So it's also something to keep in mind. So we'll go critical burn here, and we'll go dead energy. That is that for this one. We haven't done enough fights to learn dead energy for everybody else as of yet, so that's something to keep in mind. We're going to take a minute to sit right here and tell you a story about this Prince of Bel-Air. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm just going to change my outfit because why not? Let's put a bit of swag on. Alright, so we've learnt Powerful now, which is going to be used in a lot of the fights whilst Gustav's with us, just to make sure we're setting up. Right, the first few areas, the combo you're looking to go for is Powerful. So Immolate, Powerful, Swift Stride to go into Virtuoso, and then it is a case of doing all that again, then marking shot per se. And that's the cycle you're going with, because that will give you the most amount of damage outwards.
Don't die.
We're just going to take the parries on all these. Get the fire stack set up so that Swift Stride can allow us to go into thingy. We will go Powerful.
Finesse and grace.
Alright, let's just reload there because apparently Swift Stride didn't. Did I not align Swift Stride? Folks, here at Glitchless Games we have honest content. Alright, so apparently I didn't click on my L to do Swift Stride. That's alright, that's alright. It doesn't really change much. There you go. It's just that, literally that one thing. So how many times I've done that during the run itself where I've not either not clicked it, and I think I have, or I've not held it down long enough and come off the screen. It's like, well, you've not learnt it now. It's like, good stuff. You've got your pictures. That's a huge portion. Swift Stride is mandatory. Alright, going back to it. So, sorry folks, you know, in terms of this here, we will go ahead and carry on as we were. So, parry, parry, parry. We'll go ahead and hit Emulate.
Feel the burn.
We will go ahead and go Powerful.
Let me help.
Let's spill some
We will go Swift Stride. And if we get double crits here, this fight just goes swimmingly. Let's put it that way.
Danger.
So in this one early, you're not gonna be using Rain of Fire. We don't use Rain of Fire up until we get to the arena. This overall setup is going to be the way we go about it for the majority part. So as you can see here, we'll go for all this.
the dance begins.
Okay, we didn't get a crit there. That's fine. But you can see the difference in like the health between expert and that. So we do that no crit, and that's still like 5k that we're hitting for in expert. In story, it's substantially less.
Overflowing with energy. Feel the burn.
Want to get an overcharge here, just to stun, so we have less moves to deal with. Does a lot of damage too. We get a few shots in. These aren't mandatory. That's just generally throwing in some extra damage in there, so make sure we kill the next per se. Your script itself, all the notes, which will all be linked in the description for this video as well, basically will get you through this fight as it should be. So we've already got the fire stack on there. It doesn't matter, so we're just going to take the hit. We're going to do that. Powerful is now finished, so but it does not matter. That is Gobbler. That is 2 per se routes, and it's done. But the boss says. I'm still trying to keep some habits from the expert one that I'm still running with, just to kind of keep with it. Like in some of these fights, I'll go with the scripting that's there for it, just to show you overall.
I hope we can trust him.
So in this one here, we take some levels up to 2 weapons. So if one of those is Mael's weapon to 3, the other is Lune's weapon to 4. So 3 as well. Sorry, not 4.
Our pigtails.
Now we're going to Ancient Sanctuary.
Did Noko tell you anything more about the village, other than red trees everywhere?
So going against Robust, we don't need to do anything outside of the norm.
We'll just have to think like Gestrels then.
There is a burning mark picto just down here. We don't take that because that is basically, it gives you have a percentage chance to put a burn stack on somebody if they're marked. It's rarely going to come up, so it's not worth time take to learn it. Or it's every time it's burned, there's a chance to put a mark on them, something along those lines. But yeah, overall, it just doesn't do enough. So always parry the shield with this one. If you don't parry the shield, it will put the shield up and basically takes more damage to get rid of it. We'll skip turn there, we'll go into Swift Stride. Don't really need to parry that one. That's completely down to you. Like I said, depending on what level you're looking to run this at. Skip turn here. Marking shot. Per se. And it's dead. And just make sure to dodge at the very last part. And that is Robust Sack of Potatoes. Now with this one here, we do have some changes to do to weapons that compared to normal. So we are going to be equipping the Saccharum, and then we're going to be doing some Lumina changes as well. So we need to make sure, because we've now done enough fights for it, we can now put crit and dead energy on Lune and Gustav. Yes, you can parry it as well. So we'll do one last menu just before Ultimate Sack of Potatoes, and that is Ancient Sanctuary done. This part is a very, very short area, more so than anything. There's just 2 fights, that's all you need to take. There are additional enemies around, but then it's just not put into it for the run itself. Right, so we want 18 might here for Gus, we want 24th Mael, and we want 12 agility for Lune. We want her to be outpacing for the most part. We don't need to learn any more moves because we're not using Rain of Fire here. We will learn that for the next area. Rain of Fire is one of our more commonly used things with Mael. But here we go. Ultimate Sack of Potatoes. Now, you can get a god roll on this and do the stuff, whereas you can shoot the arm off and do the immolating first turn. You can just do it second turn, it doesn't make that much of a difference. So you just immolate here. We'll parry. Powerful. Again, script doesn't change for a little bit. Now we're going to go for a shot here, and we'll just attack. always good when Mael gets a virtuoso parry. That's always a win.
Take him down.
Blades shut.
Almost. A crit would have finished that.
Good stuff. Don't die.
Feel the burn.
And that is ultimate Sakuta's done. Ideally, you want to finish it on the crit, like the parry, you know, the turn before that. Realistically, that's the god roll. If you get the high roll crit on the per se, he's done. Once we're done there, we're going to go into Gestural Village. This is where we'll meet in one of the new characters, which we are going to be using throughout the run itself. CL. And then what we do is we will go ahead and put 30 might on CL, no, CL Mael. We will then learn Rain of Fire. Now, difference in this one compared to the expert side of things, we don't use the engagement. We will just go Rain of Fire. That's it.
It's really a village.
We don't require enough. We're still going to do 2 parries that make a difference, but we're not going to do the engagement, then Rain of Fire. Also, we're doing just the one.
It was.
So it goes parry, Rain of Fire, parry, attack,
We need to get.
or shoot, depending on how much health you are. Because sometimes shooting's just a little bit quicker.
A white hair. You know him. So
When you're going through this conversation here, just on the second set of options, just make sure to pick the bottom one. Otherwise, you have to walk around to the arena and you lose time for no reason.
the stranger.
Yes, we have done that. So that takes the arena and it will just put us to that side of the village instead of having to walk all the way around normally.
Now to find the chief.
I can't remember. It's been that long. I can't actually remember it's been actually that long. I want to say Medallum, but if you don't take it, but I don't think that's correct. You've never beat Golgra. What, you scrub?
Okay. Finesse and grace.
I got Rain of Fire here. Make sure we get both perfects. The Fire Tick will do most of the damage. Parry. Done. You only require the attack if you haven't done enough damage. That's it in your run criteria, Wicked. You have to beat Golgra during your run.
Let's spill some ink.
No, because per se at the moment still does just generally more damage immediately, where Rain of Fire takes a few turns that as it goes. We shoot there if we didn't do enough damage. And you don't have enough, based on the rune there, you don't have enough level points to actually get Rain of Fire at that point.
Flames. Rain.
When doing the last fight, make sure you're fundamentally doing it with Mael. So if you opt to do it with anyone else throughout the other fights, just make sure she does this one. So you get the Medalla, which is a weapon that we use.
Finesse and grace.
Now, and also we do Rain of Fire here, because she's going to do this, burn stack once, she's going to cast Rush, and then she's going to die. Because she takes a turn to do Rush, the burn stack actually does the work for us, so we don't actually have to do a second parry on this mode.
The password.
Very just.
Esquinest, rico passport.
As la.
Thank you.
Io sono
Chestro.
una force, rico femi.
Thanks, Chef.
We don't have to buy anything here, not like the other one, so we can just go straight to Francois.
Feeling better?
Yeah.
We can debrief along the way. Let's head east to Eskier's nest.
I almost feel like sacking off the hit list and just going back to story and trying to go for world record again.
Oh, Pico Bano, Pocarito, Passwordito, Mi Parino.
Golgra said to shout.
So we don't do the menu there because we're not going to teleport back this time because we're going to grab Energize and Start 3. Because we require it for our setup later.
Interesting decor.
Eskier is said to feed on light.
Are you okay, Maya?
I don't know. Getting a bit of deja vu again.
The light here. It feels a little. I don't know. Yeah.
See how it's dripping balls. So we got to SK here, and then we're going to go straight over to Francois. And Francois is similar to what we did before.
The more information we get, the more questions I have.
You okay, Sia?
Yeah. Eskier is surprising.
Okay, so fundamental thing, make sure you got Medallum done in there. We want to go ahead and do a few pieces here in terms of the team. So let's go ahead and do the menu first. So we want 4 agility on Gustav there. We want 29 might on him. Maya will go to 33 might. Ciel, we're going to go 15 agility. And 30. And then we're going to go and learn some moves. We're going to be learning based on the Fortune's Fury strat here. So we're going to harvest Serum Bond, Fire and Shadow, and then Fortune's Fury. And we'll replace Twilight Slash with Fortune's Fury just there. And then let's go back to the menus. Team-wise, we're going to take out, no, not Mayo. We're going to take out Luna and put Ciel in. So it should go turns of order. That should be how it works. Like that. And we've got our weapon equipped. We've got all our stuff there. Francois' fight will literally be dodge. Effectively, and then shoot shields. Energy Tint Ciel. Fortune's Fury Mael. Rain of Fire. That's how it should work. we can do it another way. There should be two ways to do this. So what I might do for the purpose of this, I might just redo the fight. But both methods for you all. So, we're going to take a dodge first of all. Or we'll take a parry, actually, we can. So, once we've done this... okay, Gustav isn't first. Why? Oh, it's because we did thing. Never mind. Okay. All we'll have to do then is very simple. 1, 2, 3. We'll skip. We'll do mark and shot. Then we'll do per se. Now that normally would kill. Would normally kill. So the only error that I made there, sorry for context, is you don't need to do CL's attributes and that until afterwards. You just leave her as base normal.
Take it.
I will upload a short for both the fights and that one just for you all, so you can watch those back. Because there's two ways for that fight to handle. It's only changed around slightly since because of the changes to dead energy and not giving the indirect buff and that.
Very different from
But it's not a big deal.
You think the paintress created damage?
On average, the fight for Francois should take about 17 seconds. About 17, 19 seconds. Because you dodge that initial one, and then by the time everybody's first turn's done, it's dead. Now, there's two ways to go back, but for the purpose of this run here, we're going to go to the right. You could, if you took the, went to the flag at the initial start, you could teleport back by using fast travel. But we're going to go this way because you get energized in start 3, which basically gives us the capacity to start with an additional AP at the beginning of a fight, which can help for setup later on when like getting things like Stendhal on the way and things like that. Here we go. Here's energizing start.
Nice.
Now, only thing I'm going to say about the Lampmaster fight, there might be slightly different. It might slightly vary here, so we'll see if we can use the functional notes that are there for it. But those notes are based on if Lampmasters. So basically, Lampmaster never.
Well, that will help.
Taking damage on a parry because they changed that around for a while. They've only just recently brought that back in. So we'll do that. Grab all the stuff here. Grab energizer start 1, so that's going to be 2 AP on the start or something if we get those all equipped correctly.
Here we go. I'm the fastest.
And then when we go to camp, we're going to level up the medallion to 7. Combustion's good. Combustions can be good. Alright. So we do this. We're going to go to the curator. We're going to level up medallion. Okay, there's going to be a slight detour we take at the very start of this area, just because we have to pick up a weapon that we use for Verso later on. So for Gustav, it's not mass. It gives us a bit more damage, for sure. But for the most part, we're using it for Verso later because it sets up like how he's going to functionally do a lot of damage alongside the others.
An advantage.
So what we'll look to do is we go up here to the right. Got this little rope. Got one up here. Shoot. 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 Okay, thank you. Who's told? One just there. And then we've got one just up here. Alright, that's definitely aimed on it. Grab this, and this will give us the Delarum. We can equip this to get stuff now. Like I said, we want to minimize those menus, so get into the habit of doing these things in certain sections. I'm just doing it for the purposes for you now, so you can see the weapon in place. Make our way up here. We'll grab first strike, which is just up here to the right, and there's a little hop and a skip that you can do just to minimize some time. So the little climbing animation can be quite slow. It's clumsily tries to climb up, like half baked, and then it's just slower. But you can do this where you hop on these, and it skips it for the most part. We grab first strike. Jump down there. You can clear it in one. You always used to be able to. I feel like they changed that also. And we're just gonna head straight down.
A shrine to
Now,
the paintress.
I'll take this just for the purpose of it, in case we need to use it later for demonstrations purposes. But the energy tints can be used to come in handy.
Turn to whatever they can to explain the unknown.
When you're at the mercy of a power you don't understand, you might try anything.
Then we go around here, run past that, run past this, go straight up here, because we're going to be looking for a picto called SOS Power. Well, SOS Power doesn't apply powerful when falling below 50% health. So our game plan for the most part is we're going to have everybody pretty much set to no health. So this is pretty high risk, high reward, but obviously with the increased parry window it makes it a little less risky. But there are points where your team could just get wiped out, because they are going to be set to 1 for the most part.
Looks like a farm.
And the way they're going to be set to 1 is by a move that we use on CL later, which is called Our Lives, which basically she absorbs all of her teammates' health. They all get set to 1. Okay, we can do the menu and levels, well, menu for pictos when we get up there. There shouldn't be anything we need to change in terms of stats, because we did that slightly in incorrect order. So before we fought Francois, we actually did that, which is whereas we should have actually done it after Francois getting here. And just those minor little changes can make a difference to how the fights go, because it changes the script in the turn order and things like that.
Nice.
Okay, so we want to make sure we have the pictos here for all this. So Gus is going to have himself SOS Power. He's going to get Breaker. And he's going to have Dodger. Mael will have Energize and Start 1 at the top here. First Strike, and then Augmented First Strike. CL will only have energize and start 3. For the Lumina side of things, CL will have critical burn and dead energy. And that should be everything there. We should have everybody in the right turn order. So technically, Gus will look to go first. So we'll go Mael first, right? Then Gus. Then it'll go CL. And then it'll go Mael. And that's the turn order we're looking for.
I sense something.
Realised my outfit changed back. So you know what? I'm changing it back. So I said this may be slightly different now because we're going to do damage on... We're going to do 2 lots of parries technically. So this fight could be rooted again. And may well be. Luna is not required. They're not on story mode as much. CL is going to do a lot of the overall damage. So, we open Rain of Fire. Big damage already. Yeah, this is gonna be very scuffed. Okay, so Gustav is gonna cast Powerful. Oh, Lune too slow in story. Yeah, Lune is if you do solo Lune, it's okay. But CL with her gradient attack is going to do a lot of the work for us. So when we get to here, we're going to go Fortune's Fury, and then we're going to use it on Gustav. We're not going to use it on Mael. I know it sounds weird.
Show me what you can do.
But what we're going to do with Mael is we're going to go Swift Strike because we want to finish with her in Virtuoso stance. So actually, no, this should still work out the same actually, as long as it's overcharged does enough.
Heads up here.
Which it should. Overcharge.
Let me take that.
There we go. Yeah, that fight still works out the same because it's not Mael doing the finishing hits Gustav. That's fine.
Take your shots.
So, what we're going to do is we're going to go Fortune's Fury and Mael into Rain of Fire.
Brave. Gustav, don't die.
And then we just do Marking Shot, skip turn, per se. The fire tick should just kill it. And that is Lampmaster. Just skip through all these, there's no point attacking. Does nothing to help improve times. Skip's actually the quickest.
Let her go.
I appreciate this is the purpose of the video, folks. I'm going to take just a moment here because I'm just going to check a little one. You know, family comes first. When we return, we will go through Act 2 of the run itself. I will be as quick as possible. I'll leave you to watch this.
for those who come after. Right?
You promised!
You won't yet understand. But this is a kindness, not a cruelty.
You let her come. You know she's too weak for this. How could you let her take such a risk?
You only care when things are right in front of you. My sweet child, you were supposed to stay home. I told you not to worry. But since you're here now, just stay put.
What are you saying? You must go home, now. This does not involve you.
When this is over, we'll go home together.
No!
This won't make sense to you now. But we both want what's best for our families. I'm sorry you're caught in the middle, but I did try to warn you. It's been a while. Stay out of this. You chose to walk away. You don't get to come back now and interfere.
You've lived more than a lifetime. It's time to let her go.
A lifetime. A lifetime with my family torn apart. No. I want my family back.
It's not your family. But she is.
You would use her.
She chose to come. I didn't make the rules between you two. Hey. You all right? It's okay. I'll handle things here. Get back to your friends. Go.
So that's it. You've set us down this path. But are you ready for the consequences?
Appreciate that, Wicked. Now they're all good. I was checking a little lady. Just make sure she's alright. Let's do that. These might work headphones on, just put them away for tomorrow. So I know that was an emotional scene, folks. I know. You just get my other headphones out. Sweet. Okay. So we're now going into Act 2. Well, we'll go past that part then. Yeah, we're now going into Act 2 where we're going to be using Verso. So the team itself is going to be Verso, Mael, and CL. No original Pikachu. So first things we want to do here is nothing. Actually, we're just going to go straight to the next part. Now this first enemy always gets a hit first, so we just dodge and then bring the fire.
Head for the monolith, through the quarry to the north.
Get wet.
Everyone okay?
This section, we've got no real fights to take or need to take. We've got one Picto to pick up, which is Inverted Affinity, which we'll look to do so.
Danger!
It's fine. It doesn't matter. Dodge. Don't dodge. It doesn't really matter because the fact is Verso's health is going to be lowered anyway. That's the whole point of it. And that just is I guess a little demonstration of the fact of how it doesn't, but at this point here, whilst the health's normal, it doesn't make a massive difference.
One thing at a time.
And also doesn't matter what difficulty, that guy is always just pain for no reason. Which is always quite funny. Okay, we got stuck on that. Okay, cool. That's a good demonstration. Don't do that. There's the number one. Just don't get caught out just thinking.
These are all expeditions.
We'll pick up
A single Neville took over, I suppose.
polished chroma catalyst here, which we use to upgrade to our weapons later.
I've only seen it once, many years ago. So.
Ignore all these enemies. We don't care for them. Like you'll find in most speedruns, it's just a case of running past enemies. That's it. Comes down to a lot of it. We're getting caught on absolutely everything on the floor. Make my way down here. Like I said, we're going to look to buy Inverted Affinity. That's their item we're going to look to purchase. And then I'll talk you through the setup for Verso. If there is any questions in chat, feel free to ask as you go along, or if there's any comments for those who are watching this video later down the line, feel free to leave a comment. I'll answer the best I can. But we're going to go up here, and then we're going to go and talk to the merchant who will give us Inverted Affinity. There we go. And then we want to purchase all these. Now, with this, we got just a few bits of menuing to do. Yeah, basically. Do you know what Dalaran does overall with the Wicked? So we're going to remove Lune, we're going to remove Mael. This is going to be done solo by Verso, no one else. So we're going to have the Pictos as this. Firstly, Maya will have Energizer start 1, which is fine. She'll have at death's door, and then she'll have augmented. Well, damn, Dead Space on Steam is $9. Get it? Great game. We'll have SOS Power Breaker is gone and replaced with First Strike, and Inverted Affinity will replace Dodger. Then we will go with Delirium. Delirium, at the start of battle, you are on rank B, but you have 50% health. So not only are we set to rank B already, which is a great amount of damage boost, it puts us to half health, which means we're going to hit those thresholds for Inverted Affinity, not for Inverted, for SOS Power and at Death's Door and things like that. So, equip that one. And then we've just got a few things to learn. So we'll go down here, go to this menu, and we'll just learn a few pieces. So first things first, we want to be at 42 might. Then we want to get Marking Shot, Quick Strike, Berserk Slash, and Defiant Strike. I'm going to keep these in the order I use for my other run, just to make it easier for me to remember. Played that for years. Should try to remix some of it. I played it. I played that not long ago. Why not? Treat yourself. Alright, so that's all the move setups we need. Let's go into the duelist. The duelist should be 2 phases. Or 2 phases, like 2 turns per thing. So what we're going to start off with is Defiant Strike. Not the wrong way around. Defiant Strike should be down there.
Let's carve a path.
And then we want to shoot until 4 AP, but we can't. Okay, attack. Yeah, Verso can do this easy mode. Alright, so we've got all that. Our things are all set up for next one. Technically, we can just do this. It'll take us into second phase. Parry all these.
Just try it.
And then we want to go shoot until 4. Berserk Slash. Oh, that was Defiant Strike, my bad. I got those moves. I put them on the wrong things, but you do Berserk Slash there, it's dead basically. What? There's no way. I missed that. But it's fine. And that is this. And you see there's a lot less risk in this overall. The main pockets where you get your time save back are things like your shield skips from a Vec, your line skips with Renoir, and things like that, and just being able to expedite these fights as much as possible. That wasn't done verbatim, purely because I put Defiant Strike where Berserk Slash was compared to my previous routine, so that is my own fault there. That is memory scuffed more than anything. So this should be Defiant Strike. This should be Berserk Slash. That is just how I remember it. That's your notes will say different, but I'm learning a different route as I go along, so I'm trying not to completely scuff everything I remember from that. Once we're done here, we're gonna leave, and it's gonna be on to Renoir. Now you can do one of two things with Renoir. You can fight it normal with the team you get when you walk into it, or you can just let your team die and then go back in with the team that you want. For the purpose of this, we're going to do it with the team that you get given, so which will be Verso, Lune, and Ciel. Not Ciel, Mael. You could, for the most part, you could probably solo this, do a solo run here with Verso throughout this game. I think it would be possible. He doesn't have as many like big hits as like Lune does in terms of like number of hits, or Ciel. Berserk Slash is 3 hits though, so you're hitting quad 9s for each of those. It's not the worst. And if you're using dual ESO, you can do double attacks. Alright, so when we get here, we're going to upgrade some weapons. So for this one, we're going to upgrade the Delarum to 9. And then we're going to upgrade the Medallum to 9. We don't upgrade Ciel's weapon yet because she's not going to come into the fact of doing the damage part of things yet. So we'll go ahead and do that now. And then we get ahead with the Monaco Station. There's no attack, there's no fights or anything we need to take in preparation beforehand. It's just going to be a case of going through into Monaco Station.
How far to Monaco Station?
With SKA? That should be quick.
Generalized question for the chat, obviously, and those viewers who watch this later down the line.
Station is to the north.
What would we prefer to see? Would we prefer to see the aspect of continuing to get the hitless run, or attempting to try and take world record for this run here that we're doing? Just out of curiosity.
Follow the tracks.
Monaco, we go Verso solo again.
A train. Gustav would have liked to see that.
Is it true before the fracture, Lumiere had trains running throughout
World
the
record.
continent?
Always running late.
Yeah,
Here we are.
I thought so.
Monaco Station.
Is that a Grundis? I knew it. They're real too.
Okay. Maybe we'll start bringing that aspect back into it then. They're out of team. Yep, it's just Verso. Any particular reason why you feel like that's the bigger one to go through?
My turn.
Alright, so first thing first, we go Defiant Strike. Get a big hit there.
Bring it on.
And then we should be going shoot until 4. Berserk Slash.
Oh well.
And deaded. I think will be a big achievement for you. Appreciate that, no? I'm just curious more so than anything, like, because we're also going to be trying to do it for Shadow of Mordor. So not Shadow of War, we have the most of those. I'm going to return back to the full game run for that. Maybe we do just kind of like iron out some of these things here. Alright, Lune, agility 39, Verso 57, Mael 51. Now in this fight here we want to add the L, then Mael, and we're going to literally go Sabotage, Berserk Slash. The reason we add those back in is because they're going to help us learn some of the things they have equipped to them.
Verso, why aren't you using gradient attacks?
I don't need pointers from the one sitting on his lazy ass.
But as you can see, the health for Verso is always in the threshold where he's going to get his damage boost for SOS power. We don't have a Death's Door on there yet, which is why we're not hitting the quad 9s as much. There you go, Sabotage,
Last ditch effort.
and then Berserk Slash.
Eyes up, Verso. Alright, now with everybody, we want to go ahead and do the Lumina here, and we want first strike on them all. We're also going to put on him as well. Off we go. Monaco is sadly not used in any parts of the run. I think it's because he's too late into the run and he requires too much setup to get going. You would have to go around and suck on too many toes to get Monaco to a point where he's gonna swing big. And yes, you heard that statement correctly. Alright, so we're heading to Old Lumiere now, which means we're going to going against Renoir soon. After that, we have the Axons.
Welcome, my friends, to Old Lumiere.
Is anyone still here?
Just never.
There you go, we.
So we want grab those.
So this is where our piece of Lumiere used to be. Before the fracture ripped apart the world and...
Well, this outfit puts shoes on her. Well, that'd be sad for some
We're
people.
lucky it did. That's probably the only reason we...
Friends, I beg your forgiveness for landing us in this quagmire.
It's okay, Minoko. Let's move on, shall we? How exactly did our piece of Lumiere end up on an island when the rest of the city is here?
One of the great...
That fight there was accidental. Don't take that fight.
Minoko,
You don't need to.
what was life like before the fracture?
The world was smaller and cozier, livelier. There were many more of us Gestrels back then. The fracture tore our villages apart. Only a fraction of a fraction survived. Our forests are filled with Gestrels awaiting rebirth.
This part is just more or less run percent. There's going to be a couple of fights now when you go into the Verso and Mael section. Well, one fight, actually, just one.
Speaking of home, where do you live in Lumiere?
Above a bakery near the center. Angelique's Boulangerie.
But yeah, in this one we don't use the Chorizo for Verso, which is one thing I liked about this run compared to others. Not because I dislike the Chorizo, but because it was always just the go-to, just get that weapon and I'm sold.
I never said that was
We'll ignore all these. I will take the fight here against these. We've already got First Strike already on here and prepared, so we can just go. We can fail the QT on this as well, and then we will just go Defiant Strike. Fight it would have killed that, but I just thought I'd just get it done there and then. Okay. Now we have a little bit of a part that can... I've seen it cook runs before, just because we have to kind of duke around some enemies. And because Miles... So when you're fleeing, if you have two people going like first, like because we've got First Strike, because if you've got them two going first, you can flee on the second person. If you're solo, you've got a chance to flee, but not a guarantee. So what we need to do is grab these over here, lure them around, grab this, and then get out. Otherwise, you're stuck in a fight, and yeah, you can win the fight, but it will just hemorrhage a lot of time. Let's just put it that way.
I think I'm close.
What that gave us there is auto rush. So basically, it just gives us like a speed boost at the start of the fight. So we're gonna go energize start here at 1. We're gonna go auto rush instead of at death's door. Then we're gonna go augmented First Strike. Lumina changes. We're gonna remove critical burn. We already have. Do we want critical burn on? No, we want it off. And we want inverted affinity.
This manor's intact.
As I said, if you are more comfortable doing so, you can just lose this fight, come back into it, and you can use whichever team you want to use. This will be going on the precedent of using the team that you get given, basically. So what we're going to do is Rain of Fire. We're going to go Ice Lance.
Ready to strike.
And then we'll go ahead and Tint Verso.
Okay.
Forced us into this point.
That was wrong. That's supposed to be Defiant Strike, my bad. We will go ahead and go Swift Stride.
Let the ink flow.
We've already done the tint, so you know what, we'll just go attack here. And then we will go... Let's go Defiant Strike now.
Danger.
Help you this time.
Verso, Mael, and Monaco. Do you use all set once you get it? No. Yes, we use it for CL later. So here we're going to go ahead and do the same again. Actually, no, we're not. We're going to Parasite instead.
Chroma is flowing. Feel the burn.
I'm not angry, just disappointed.
And then Berserk Slash will finish it up here.
My turn. I've got this.
Again, slightly up around here just because of changes in that I made there as I go, but your script in that will work exactly as it stands. I just have some bad habits from doing other runs, so apologies there. Okay, so I'm going to upgrade a couple of things now. Verso, Mael, Monaco. Why Monaco? So we're going to upgrade CL's weapon now. All the way to 9. Alright, and then CL. We'll do it as we go in there. Now we don't have to go, we still don't go down the route of getting any of the masks in this one. We will just go straight to the boss fight. We also don't pick up Confident Fighter in this one, because the damage should be good overall.
Time for swim swim.
This is Visage Island.
All set. Which one is that? Is that the Picto? Or are you on about the move that CL has?
Faces.
An infinite sea.
Because all set with CL is used in places in the expert run, and I think it's still using this one if I remember rightly.
Singing.
This melody.
This is creeping me out.
Alright, so we do talk to this one here because we want to get some resplendence so we can level up some weapons. Apparently the menu wants to be buggy there. Alright, so we got 3 resplendence. Then we head straight up. Not our lives, our sacrifice. That's the move I'm thinking of. Our sacrifice is the move from CL, which you'll see in this fight here. It's the first time we start using it. And you'll see why CL is in the team overall.
Ominous. Monoko, what does that mean? He who guards truth with lies.
Mm-hmm. But her gradient is one of the stronger ones, just because it has multiple hits attached to it.
Or God is in control.
Yes.
Alright. So, let's go ahead and do our stats here. Want to go to 20 agility here. We'll go to 40 there. We're going to go for Verso. We'll go to 60. Does leave us with some leftover, I know. And then same here, we go to 60. We'll learn some skills. So, our sacrifice deals extreme dark damage to all enemies in one hit. Absorbs allies' health and enemies. That is why we use it. Let's Serum Bond. And then we want Perfect Break and Blitz. Okay, so in terms of the party then, what we'll do is remove Lune. We're gonna add CL, remove Mael, add Mael, remove Verso, add Verso. So yeah, remove Lune, add CL because we want CL to go in first, then Mael, then we want Verso. Picto side of things here, we're going to go with First Strike on Mael, And then we are going to go last one, augmented first right. That's fine. We'll go to Verso. He is going to have at death's door and SOS power and inverted infinity. That's all fine. Hey, look, I've not. Technically not. Technically haven't. Technically have not. Alright. Then we're going to go energize and start 3. There we go, auto rush. Alright, then Luminar. We will go inverted infinity. Verso first strike and energize and start. Then Mael critical burn and energize and start 1. So the way I do it is risky enough. Okay, I'll show you now. Don't worry, I got the elaborations. Don't you worry. Welcome in, Simon. Welcome in. We are just going through the run, or the race, and how it's supposed to look in terms of thingy fight for them, for Wicked, Toto, and Sancho. So this is going to be why, and you'll see. So our first move here, Wicked, in terms that we go our sacrifice. Now what this does, puts everybody to 1 except for CL, which means you scuff one thing, and yes, I know we have an increased power window, but if you remotely scuff one thing, your team dies. And that's where the risk comes into it. We'll go Rain of Fire. And then we'll go Berserk Slash. It's going alright, mate. It's going alright. A few little iffy parts here and there, scuffs. So in this one, we actually do take a second thing in the first fight. So we know Fortune's Fury, and we're going to be doing that on CL. And we need to finish it in this next parry, basically. So let's see what we get here. I can't remember which one this is. Well, all in all, it's fine. And that should take us through. It did not. You know what? In that case, we'll do that to take us across. The next phase will open up slightly differently, but it should still work out the same. So what we'll do here is we'll go Blitz, which gives us another attack. We will go Berserk Slash. Now we're going to get to CL, and she's going to have double damage. And with that double damage, we're going to go ahead and use Shadowbringer.
Here we go.
And then Fire and Shadow. Now, we should have had Rain and Fire go off here, which would have finished this part by now, but it's fine, and that's because phase 1 didn't we must have low rolled on the damage.
I'm waiting.
we shouldn't have had to deal with any of those parries. Second phase should have just been a case of clean sweep. Being into late game, we all got down probably. I'm assuming end game is where some might have trouble. You might do so, yeah, just with the fact of like if you're using this particular one, you're gonna have the point where you're putting your team to low HP, so any minor mistakes may end up costing. Uh, 30, 15 agility, 18 agility. Verso will learn powerful, and he will learn leadership. Basis quick strike. No. Okay, actually, again, I'm going to put it back in the spots that I know. Bullets can go there, it's fine. Effectively, that's it. That is just it. Then once we've done all this here, we're going to go level up weapons again. Up until the very end, I think this is the last level up before we get to the end of, towards Act 3 in the big part. So we're going to level to 14 there. And then we're going to level Medallum to 10. And then we're going to go against Serene.
Time for a swim, as the swimmer.
And after this part here, so we've got Serene, we've got Renoir, Paintress and Renoir. So we're on the home stretch here, basically. Sounds like there's very little left. Obviously, we still got to traverse a few bits. This is probably one of the longest traversal parts for the run. No worries at all, Pikachu. Thank you for tuning in as always. You get some rest, dude. Catch you next time.
The architecture looks very different here.
This kind of place never existed before the fracture.
It's beautiful. Feels.
Okay, so we'll do this now, actually. So we want Immaculate. That's what we got from Masskeeper. Immaculate. That was it.
Surreal.
And the reason why this is the longest is because we have our little break parts that we can do nothing about. Oh, sorry, we got Glissy as well in this as well. Let's not forget that. We got Glissy. Now, I want to be honest, one of the biggest risky parts in this part, and this might just be for me, it has been anything that uses Charm. Charm itself is an annoyance to try and deal with.
Mesmerizing.
This dance feels familiar.
Because if you are out just fractionally and it catches you, and yeah, you just kind of get punished for it, because, and you don't want to go and fight the Tissia because to get anti-charm, because that means you then have to use a slot up to put anti-charm on, and if you want to learn it for everybody, and it's no point because it's only for this one section charms applicable. Again, this run will be available on YouTube as well, for everybody to, if anybody does need to refer back to it, or just want to has a glance over some of the pieces in it. So we'll take the right path here, because we're going to shoot the big looking thing here in front of us and run past it. Just like that.
This place is huge.
Thank Expedition 67 for destroying a lot of the walls to get further. Couldn't progress without that.
Feels like home.
I mean, surely at some point we need to see more of, there needs to be some content for the different expeditions, right? There's a shed load of different expeditions prior to all this, which is just free roam content. Even if you know what happens at the end, you know, the idea of help set all these bits and pieces up for the main expedition. Or some backstory to people like Renoir and that. Or give me some details on the war outside, the paintresses and the writers and whatnot. There is so much more to throw in this game. Or throw out from this game world.
It works for Siren.
So he creates all of that for her.
Okay, there's apparently you're all leaving Midgar soon by the looks of it. Makes for good for TVs. Yeah. I think they're already looking at it as well, aren't they? So I think I have seen the fan cast for Gustav as Robert Pattinson. I feel like why not just use Charlie Cox? Sorry, I'm intrigued. I'm not just watching the FF fight on the side now. This nick. Alright, well, we got first strike, so I didn't do the whole thing, but we have first strike. So, again, we are going to go our sacrifice. We will go Rain of Fire. Then we will go Leadership. Once we've done that, we will go Fortune's Fury, and we're going to be doing it on CL.
Show me what we can do. Not today.
And then we will go Offensive Switch.
Let's carve a path.
Powerful. And then we will go into Shadowbringer, into Fiery Shadow. And that's Glissy done. Now, for anybody that wants to do any of these skips and things like that, you can just shoot to get through Glissy. For the purpose of the race, I don't know if you want to restrict it so you can't do that, but that's an option. You would put yourself into, obviously, non-glitchless. I don't know if it's restricted or if it's the one after that. And then you would be towards the tail end of it, because theirs is like an hour or something, comparison to ours, or even less. And we are moving on to Serene now. We have just a few minor changes to make to the Pictos, which we'll do now actually. Verso will get Auto Rush. And then at Death's Door and Inverted Infinity, Mael will have Combo Attack, Burst Strike and Augmented. And then we will have at Death's Door there. Inverted. Yep. Alright, just make sure this is all correct. I believe it is. Now we've. All right, this is going to be a random one throughout there.
Finally there.
She's waiting.
Who would be interested to seeing the glitch run to this?
Prepare before we head there. She's even grander than I thought.
Lune, you're okay, right?
I mean, we've done the story, we've done expert on that.
I've seen this dance.
Obviously, you know, we'll just do what we said we're going to do, which is chase the world record and that. Would anyone be interested in seeing that? Okay. So, what we'll do here, first of all, we don't need to do our thing here. Absolutely, okay. So what we're going to do first here is we're going to do Fortune's Fury on CL. We're going to do Rain of Fire. And then we're going to do Powerful. Now we should just need to power this. Is it just taking it just over? Feel like it has. Comes frantic, okay, that's fine.
I'll manage.
2 seconds, just turn the heating off. 2 secs, family. Okay. So, carrying over where we left off. What we'll do here is we're going to do bullets.
Let's go find
into Defiant Strike. And then we're going to do Offensive Switch. And then that is Serene done. So as you'll see, there's particular setups that we want to run through the majority of fights. Like we did with Lunatic Expert, we're using Ciel's Green attack into a secondary attack to go ahead and clean things up. Here we want to just remove everyone. So I want to put Monaco in, remove everyone. And that should be it. Oh no. We have Ciel and that first, so I'll explain why we do this. We do actually have to take Ciel into this one. Almost forgot this part, as it's quite important. I've missed this before and lost the run because of it.
Wow. I drank too much last night.
I can't remember a thing.
You clean me out.
Mes amis.
You bunch of drunks. We can finally reach the Paintress.
Let's make sure we're well prepared beforehand. We still
Sure,
have a little
sure.
bit of time.
Okay, so this, we are just going to do a few very basic things. Obviously, if in terms of the fight, there's no fight to be had. It's kind of like Renoir, where we just skip turn, skip turn, skip turn. But we're actually going to use it as a time to set up some particular things. One of those being a Ciel on next to no life, basically. That's the aim we're looking for. So we can use things like At Death's Door, SOS Power, and that to make sure that when we do use the Great Attack, they should be hitting for quad 9s. We have to do this because we want to set it up for Renoir so that we can get a clean line skip and not have to go through more phases than we'd like to. So once we go into this one, we're going to use Harvest on Ciel. The reason we're going to use that, which is basically Harvest is just a heal, it's because we have Invert Infinitium, which means I'll actually do damage to us. And then we'll do it a second time, and then we'll look to skip turn until done. Then when we get into the next section, Ciel will be at 1. And set up to do what we need to do.
Ready.
Alright, so as said, we will go. Why do we only have one? Okay, for some reason we only have one. That's fine.
Ready.
I'm pretty sure I did. I clicked on the additional healing tint when I went to the expedition resources. If not, just make sure you have done so. We'll
fix it another way. And the reason we want to be set to 1 because we're not going to be using our sacrifice in this fight. This next fight coming up. So we don't, because in the previously we've had just have max HP and that's fine. Now we wanted to have low HP.
The monolith? What was that thing? Why did it help us inside?
Are you all right, Mael?
Up there. She's a pain.
Apologies all for the
up there.
mix-up in some places here, but I feel like I did it. Could be wrong. You might be able to tell me if you watch this VOD back. If we did scuff it, if you did, I'll take full blame for it, but we will just show you how to repair it as well.
I guess we head up then.
So, in terms of the team then, we get rid of Monaco. We add Mael, and then we add Verso. We're going to take a fight here. How many we got? So Luna and Monaco over there, yeah, that's fine.
Finesse and grace.
Look out!
Ciel, dodge!
That's what we need. And we can just flee.
En garde!
And that resolves that issue. Obviously, in terms of the run itself, you want to make sure you get it done correctly first time, but if there's no harm in having safeties and backups just in case. Another way of making that quicker is by just having the aspect of just sending CL on their own. The next team that comes in will then just basically flee. That's another way of doing it, just trying to do it a little bit quicker, but I think they'll get all get an attack prior as soon as the next team comes in, so I'm not sure if it does work out any quicker or if it's just at least guarantees CL gets hit. So we're just making our way through some of the different areas and that, okay, getting caught on things as well. Just through some of the different areas you've been through previously in the game. You'll notice here, obviously, in the flying waters. We'll go into Monaco Station soon, and just kind of traversing through those pieces. And all in attempts to get to Lumiere to go and fight Renoir. And it's going to be referred to as Renoir 2. There's 3 instances of fighting Renoir. Now we're in Ancient Sanctuary. As I said, it's almost like following through where you went through in the game. Folks, if you do want to see more content like this, or you have any ideas on things you'd like to see, or some guides on stuff, feel free to kind of drop a comment in the description of this video, or let me know in the Discord as well. All the details for the Discord will be linked as follows.
Who is she fighting?
Her husband?
We have one picto to pick on this place, which is called Weakness Gain, which is just around here. So just behind this pillar. It's quite easy to miss, but you get stuck on a lantern. Always happens. Side you stone wave cliffs. And we're moving from the battlefields now, because this is the area we're in, which is battlefields and Monaco Station shortly. As you'll notice, it will change from this kind of war zone to an icy thing. Now, when going down here, you can go down here to stop like the roll on that. There is a traversal point here to get past these batch of enemies. Now, I used to do a very, very obscure way now beforehand, but I've seen this in the run itself, so we go over here, down this way. You don't have to then try and shoot them, you don't have to try and lure them around, anything like that. You can just run around, hop over, you're good to go. There's quite a lot of traverse on this point here, but it's all pretty straightforward. There's no...
How do you know that?
Except for the fix we went for earlier, there's no real fights you have to take.
I can read it.
Alright, we are almost at Renoir. And what we're aiming for here is to get his health down to as close to 50% as possible, but not under 50%. If it goes under 50%, it will then summon the lion for phase 2. We'll refill him back to full health, and it just takes a lot longer than we'd like it to overall, because the animations, the cutscenes and all that kind of stuff, it's not what we want. So we want to get into just above 50%, say 51 if we can, and then we want to kill him in one shot, or 2 shots, because we can use CL's gradient and then go for another attack, because we get priority to get another attack off that way. And we're going to learn at this point Sealed Fate, which is the, I think the 6 or 7 hit move, so it's going to give us more chance to deal that amount of damage that we require. Again, we ignore these. CL should be at 1 health here, which I'll check in a second just to make sure. If not, you can sort a health out here, just to make sure it's correct actually by fighting one of those. Okay, CL is at 1. Perfect. Okay. So let's go ahead and do this. We want 40 agility. We want Phantom Blade, and then we want Sealed Fate. Sealed Fate to replace Harvest. Slight alteration to Pictos and Luminar. So in this one here, we'll go to Verso. We want Energize and Start 3 on here. SOS Power. And Auto Rush. Luminous side of things, we want At Death's Door on. Then we go to Mael. We want Critical Burn off, Auto Rush on. Over to CL. We want at death's door. We want critical burn off. And we want auto rush on. Go back out. We want immaculate. We want weakness gain. And then we want energizing term. With all those in place, we should be good to go. Go the right way. Let's go the right way. Make sure I'm looking at the right part here. We are, okay, so we do still use it. I didn't think we did. My bad. My error. Okay. Who wants to follow my logic? Because that's on you. That's all on you, mate. That's all on you. All right. 2 secs. Apparently it's snowing. Hands are broken. Okay, I'll have to look at those. Right, so we go ahead and go our sacrifice here. We do still use this. Maybe use it. Oh yeah, we can't heal. That's why. Never mind. I was trying to think of what I'm thinking, but we can't heal because you have inverted affinity, so it's relevant. That's why we have to set ourselves to 1. Then we go Rain of Fire.
Last ditch effort.
And then we go Leadership.
If I die, so be it.
Then we go Fortune's Fury on Ciel.
Show me what you can do.
Get ready. So little was.
Then we go Offensive Switch.
Let's cover path.
We go Powerful. And I don't feel like we're going to do enough damage here. But we're going to find out, aren't we? So.
So be it.
7 hits. How many AP? Okay. We're good. We're good. And that isn't a line skip. Now, a lot of you may not even think that's a thing because when you play through it casually or for any means, you're like, well, I never see the line anyway because I just one-shot him. Or near enough one-shot him by that point anyway. Or try to one-shot him. Or you're using someone like Lune who does enough hits, it's not an issue. But Whitmark? With Mark? Okay. I'll go through here, then we got just some attributes to change. So CL might 50. Verso 30. Mael 30. We don't need any more skills to learn here. We'll go to Lumina. And we will go CL to have Auto Rush off. And we want Critical Burn, Energize and Storm. And let's go Paintress.
We're outside.
She's there. I can feel her.
We need to be as prepared as possible. Once we go up, there's no turning back.
In some places, yes. Okay. So let's go through this now. So what I want to do first of all is focus Foretell. Rain of Fire. Now we're going to go Powerful.
How cruel of your father to use you like this.
Watch out, Mael.
Look out! Look out! Ready to carry. No, never.
Then we will go Fortune's Fury and we'll put that on CL. We'll go Swift Stride here because we want to try and end in Virtuoso. Then we will go Berserk Slash.
Do you understand what you've done? You killed him!
I pressed the wrong button. I'm going to keep that in for the purposes of it. We're just going to reset that very quickly. For some reason I pressed RB. I was like, oh, it's a gradient attack, my bad. Now that just goes to show you folks, it doesn't matter how much you play this game, you can make a minor error, alright? And also gives you the demonstration that is honest content.
If I die, so be it.
So, focus Foretell.
I can do it.
Rain of Fire.
Last ditch effort.
Powerful.
How cruel of your father to use you like this.
I mean, I'm just doing this for memes at this point. I'm getting that lazy with the parry right now. I did that like half an hour early. Scrub right now. Apologies. Okay, this time I'll show you what happens when we do it normally.
Swiftly now. I can do it. Blaze. Brave.
I've lived through worse.
How cruel of your father to use you like this.
Oh, okay, I pressed that. I don't care. Alright, I'm past the memes part. I pressed that. Jesus Christ. Alright, so we just dodged those, but for some reason I now have a thing that I just want to parry them.
If I die, so be it.
Like I said, this will all remain in the video, folks, for all of you. Just
I'll manage.
okay.
Of your father to
I'm holding RB and not R trigger. Okay.
Ready. Incoming. Bring it on.
That's exactly, that's what I've been trying to do. Definitely what I've been trying to do. Alright, with Fortune's Fury. We're going to go into Swift Stride.
I've lived through worse.
We're going to go into Berserk Slash.
I've got this.
We're going to remember to press R trigger because this is a gradient one. Gradient block. Okay, remember that one, folks. And then we're going to go ahead and go.
No, never.
We did not do nowhere near enough damage.
Your fate. Who are you supposed to be? Doesn't matter.
Not giving up.
So, for some reason we under damage there. Okay. I did feel like we did less damage than we needed to, but we will make this work.
Renoir can grieve however he likes, but I get to grieve my own way.
Last ditch effort.
So, we're going to go ahead and Berserk Slash here. We will go Fortune's Fury on CL.
Show me what you can do.
Yeah, dodge.
Tell your father I don't need him to look out for me.
Get ready.
I dream the fire. Is Bertha still alive?
Alright, now I'm going to go and do this because we're going to put Defenseless on. That's going to be something we do need. And then we will go Shadowbringer.
If I die, so be it.
Okay, so we're under damage.
I think I'll improvise. I think I'll improvise.
I've got this.
I'm not crazy. I know exactly what I'm doing.
You're not the only ones who thought that, to be honest.
Arrogant man. I taught him to paint. He seeks to use my creations against me.
There are those who think that they should have ended here in terms of the fight side of things. Parrying this one, you want to get it just as it arches round. Okay. Don't miss your shots. Rain of Fire.
I think I'll improvise.
Okay. Now that took longer than it should have done because of some undamage and some scuffs in turn order.
Okay.
Heal anybody be at CL, thank you. That is fine.
Time to take risks.
Right, that's the painter's tome. It's not a bad place to win it. I mean, I think people think it in terms of the fight itself, because like the painter's fight was good. I don't get me wrong, Renoir's music makes his fights alone, but like painter's fight, the main precedent for most people was, oh, the paintress, you're gonna stop the paintress. So it was like, okay, yeah, this is where it's supposed to end, right?
End of the corridor, you know where
And then it spirals off from it, which is obviously is the perfect ending. But I don't see it as unjustified that people would think, oh yeah, okay, yeah, it would have been good here. Either or, because like Act 3 in general is quite short. It's ironic how short Act 3 is.
I need you to the conflict is you will do nothing. The writers you and I can't so trick. Although, if you read, I'll fight this. Can you handle that? Lest you forget. Good. And read.
Okay, so now we're going to do just a few little bits and pieces beforehand. I believe we have to get a shortcut. Oh, we don't use it. Yeah, get a shortcut. Yeah, the notes are quite scuffed there, so just one thing to keep in mind when you are using these notes. I'll show you where, but we want to get a shortcut. Which we'll use in some of our fights later.
Your father was the one erasing everyone. Why would he help repaint everything?
I hid the canvas before I entered, so Maman can't come back again.
Maman?
There's no need to erase the canvas anymore.
He'll want you to go home. Are you?
Is he bad? What?
Save it. I don't need. You did what? Of course.
I thought you...
I was. Everything. I don't care. And that.
CL.
Oh, please.
Thank you.
As long as.
You got it.
Not to...
Thanks for this.
Was it worth... What will you...
I'll do my best.
Quite as...
Alright, up here to Mael. Back to Lune, and then on we go.
We have to put...
I'm surprised.
He's been...
If you and your...
What's the old...
Maybe.
Professor...
You're fighting. Eileen. Our whole...
When it comes to doing that, so you don't do the little jump at the end of conversations, just somewhat remember the last line they say. Is the only tip I'd give there.
I was right.
And what would you have...
I wouldn't have been...
So you choose...
That's your...
Knowing what you... I don't apologize.
I remember in one run I did go ahead and fight Sprung. I went back and forth to him after this.
Once we're ready,
you don't need to do that.
We can head to Lune.
It's just added time waste. Managing the fight correctly, you can do just what you need to do without taking the 2 turns.
expeditioners are glorious wreakers of havoc.
The sword of Lunia.
Alright, so move all except Verso, and then we want to add in Mael and Ciel. Mael, we want Painted Power. We want Immaculate. And then Verso, we want Energize and Turn, Combo Attack, and SOS Power. We'll remove Critical Burn, and we want Auto Rush on. And then we want Auto Rush off on Mael, and we want First Strike on. And what we do here is fight this. And this is what will give us shortcut. And what shortcut does, it allows us to use Last Chance to go into another turn. So we're going to go here, and then we're going to tint on Mael.
Here we go.
Oh, hang on. One thing we didn't do was the abilities. There's my own thing, I guess. We'll just take a moment. Rushing things as we go here. Okay. There is a flag just here, which is where we should have done it. Let me just make sure everything as it should be. Combo attack, no. Let me just redo stuff for the sake of doing it. Painted Power. Immaculate. We want Energizing Turn. We want Combo Attack. And that, and then we want Critical Burn off, we want Auto Rush on, Auto Rush off, Burst Strike on. Go here, learn skills. Make sure to learn Stand Down. Stand Down is very important.
Expeditioners are glorious wreakers of havoc.
And going back to what I was trying to explain here before I royally mess things up, because that's what I like to do for these things, for educational purposes only, is we're going to tint with Verso and then we're just going to stand out, and this will give us a shortcut. Shortcut, immediately play when fallen below 30% health. So we can use it alongside Last Chance. Do everything we need to do. Now I'm going to go into Renoir, well, Creation first of all, then Renoir. And then that basically is everything done in terms of it. Now I apologise for some of the hiccups in the run when explaining it. Some minor alterations that played out. All in all, this is generally how it should look. Some fights we low rolled in some places, some things we scuffed in some places, but you'll get the idea, and the link to the notes will be left in the description as well for you all, just in case you want to have a try at speedrunning it. And if you do, let me know what you found was the hardest part for you. Wicked, you might find that you end up speedrunning this afterwards, right? I mean, technically the race, that is your official first one. Just have yourself a little timer going alongside it. Could be your first official speedrun. You and Toto.
Yes.
I am.
The Opera House.
Nevrons from the Axon Islands. What are they doing here?
Like Axon's their Papa's creations, not Claire's.
And then we've got just a few more alterations to make some stats, and we should be good.
Almost there.
Mael?
Let's go.
Thank you for the fanfare. We appreciate that. Alright, so first thing is we use barrier breaker. And then we're going to be using shortcut. We want to put augmented first strike on.
Grab his dick and twist it! Oh my god, dude, this is an MMA fight, dude. You too much. Twist that dick!
Okay.
Twist his dick! Twist his dick!
Now I'm used to doing a lot of alterations here in terms of things. But for this, it doesn't seem there is any to make now. The 96 agility from an expert. Oh, that's from expert, that's why. I'm getting runs confused. So, that was something I threw in there. You don't have to do that. But that is just upgrading that just to make sure we've got enough overall.
I can't sustain the expedition as much longer.
I do feel like something's missing.
Fast.
So this could be another scuff thing, but we'll see. We'll see. Creation, we just flee. We don't need to set up anything here, because we're going to use the last chance in the fight against Renoir to set Mael to Virtuoso stance. We almost didn't escape there.
Papa's over there. And the coma we need to bring back Lumiere.
So let's see if we can scuff this last part for you all. You can realise, well, you know what, I could do this one better than this idiot could.
Sure we're ready.
And you're probably right. You probably could. And if you can, you definitely should. Hang on. Why is it not saying the notes here? Why am I missing something? There it is. It's just completely in the wrong place. I know I've missed something. Ah. Nope. It's all good. It's all good. I caught it before we went in. Okay. So. Nope. We're good. We're good. We're good. We're good. That's one of it. And then the other part. Intervention. Alan, what's up, good sir? It's not a speedrun. This is just a video. You just wasted that many points. This isn't a speedrun. I'm literally doing a demonstration video. I'll refund you those. Although, priceless timing. Yeah, so anybody does watch this video on YouTube, that is just what my chat is like. And I'm absolutely here for it. Okay. Going back to where we were. That should have everything as it should do now. I mean, Sanjay, you must have a shed load of points in. He's going to get a refund, don't worry. I mean, I can reset a speedrun, but we're not want to finish Split Fiction at some point. Yeah, you definitely should. And if you finish it, then somebody can run it with me. Alright. There's still time for this to go wrong. That's Sanjay. The mind's set for 60k to reset. Alright, so what we're going to do first is we're going to go leadership. And this is what I said, it was going to be last chance.
But why?
Last chance.
Which will then give us another turn. And then we want to go stand down. Now what will happen here is CL should outpace, I think. Well, that could be wrong as well. We can just be getting everything wrong at this point. Let's call every for the cheeky kid. With antics like that, Sancho, I'm gonna have to just so now we do intervention on Mayo. And then we go, because we want to apply defenseless.
Oh well.
That's fine. I know. Then we want to get powerful. Try to skip. Svip. I don't know how much you svip. And then we'll go intervention again on Mayo. Virtuoso strike. And then it'll be stand down. And that should be all they wrote. Central, I'll have a look at that in a second, mate. There you go. That is Renoir. As you notice, your risk is in the majority of it, but like I took a hit or two there with on Verso, but it didn't change anything drastically. Obviously, we need the powerful on it, but as long as we survive for that, and then because we're not setting every to 1 towards the end, it's not as bad. So I'd say your mid game is probably more risky. And then we go into this one. Oh no, I did this wrong. Never mind. We'll just do this then, because you're supposed to use Chroma Elixir, heal, last chance, then stand down. Never mind. Don't matter. Don't matter. Is that what you're going to request? Is it? You know what? Let's just go Rain of Fire.
Verso, stop!
Don't do this, by the way.
This for everyone.
We're all hypocrites.
What you do before this is you Chroma Elixir, last chance again, and then go ahead and do all the stuff. In all fairness, I've never actually seen his moves. His moves are pretty cool when he uses them. For when, like, again, for everybody watching this, that's staying in. This is what you actually do. Chroma Elixir. You go back in there and you do exactly what we did against Renoir, which is effectively use last chance, get an extra turn, then stand down his booty hole. There you go. And that is that. Effectively, the run will finish there as soon as you've gone to the results screen. All you'd need to do by the end of it, in terms of the speedrun, is show your menu with your version you're running on, everything like that, and effectively, that is a speedrun done for you. So in terms of that, if you did enjoy the content, if you did enjoy the fumbles, if you did enjoy the honest content, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications so you know when this content goes live for you. If you want to suggest any more videos like this, or if you have suggestions on different things you would like to see or get guides for, feel free to hit me with the comments. Yes, we died. That's what you do. Let's do it. That's the trick. No, that was my fault. I went into the fight and forgot to use Chroma, so which means I didn't get to use last chance and then stand down. In